Welcome back to Search Ahead. Today we will be talking about art and medicine, education and drawing, sense of humor and communication. To do so, we will have here Dr. Eoin Kelleher, illustrator, cartoonist and practicing doctor. Hello, Dr. Kelleher. Thank you for being here with us. How are you?
Thank you very much, Antonio, for inviting me along. It's very exciting.
I would like to start the interview asking, when Eoin the cartoonist got together with Eoin the doctor and started drawing about health-related issues?
I was never actually pretty great at art, so cartoons are always a bit easier, so that's why I got into that a bit earlier. And then after entering medical school and starting work as a doctor, I just kept it up as a hobby mostly. It was a nice pastime and it's relaxing. But obviously I suppose my interests were always around health and healthcare. And I suppose that feeds into social issues as well, because health is intimately linked to, social issues. And I think cartoons are a good way to, discuss some important issues, particularly, I suppose, issues that kind of intersect between health and politics in a way that's hopefully humorous, but also maybe takes a bit of the edge out of the discussion and can sometimes hopefully simplify and capture an issue in an image is what I try to do. But mostly I do it because I enjoy it and it's fun and it's relaxing and it takes a break from, regular work as well.
Thank you for the answer, Dr. Kelleher. As an illustrator, you already have published a couple of books. The first one was A Journey Through the Brain, and the second one, the most recent, has been A Journey Through the Body. When did you start having that need to take the readers through this physiological journey?
Again, I've always liked drawing. This isn't the kind of happened more recently, and that I always did stuff like this, but never really had an audience for it, and mostly kept it to myself. But when David Cotter and Mary Cannon in the Department of Psychiatry and RCSI asked me if I'd like to help them on a knowledge exchange and dissemination scheme grant to create something to help their neuroscience with young people, I jumped at the opportunity and we created Journey Through the Brain. And I suppose while doing that, I thought, well, I could do this for the rest of the body as well. And just come up with, I suppose, mostly just flights of fancy of my own to kind of illustrate some of what I thought were important, or I suppose more importantly, what I thought were interesting aspects of the human body and illustrate them.
Do you reckon there is a disconnection in terms of communication between lay people and doctors?
A lot of medical work isn't really accessible unless you've got a certain baseline level of knowledge. The language we use is quite difficult. Basis is in Latin and Greek terms a lot of the time. And it's quite dry. And I suppose the same goes for it's full of jargon basically. And I suppose that's the same with any area. I'm sure engineering is full of jargon as well. Accounting is definitely full of jargon, and so is the law. Whereas images, by their nature are jargon free. An image has to be visual and you have to be able to understand an image for it to make sense. And that's why I thought images would be the best way to try and describe the body. And we know that ourselves in medicine. I mean, any anatomy textbook is full of images. There's no anatomy textbooks out there that are just text. And the same goes for most medical textbooks. And that's because there's an understanding, or it's acknowledged that you need images to explain things. And I thought, well, if we can use images to explain things to medical students and doctors, why not just use images to explain things to everyone? And they're really quite similar images. I just had a bit more fun doing them, but they're not that different from images in a textbook.
Thanks for your explanation. When something as extraordinary as this pandemic happens, what is your first reaction as an artist? You go and draw about it through illustrations, or you draw about it through cartoons?
My initial reaction was to turn to cartoons. I think there's always a need for a certain amount of humor at a situation like this, even dark humor. I think other people, obviously, and I follow several artists, have turned to art and images, but a pandemic, I'm sure it does, and I just can't think of how it fits well into a painting or an illustration yet. They're too nebulous. They don't really have, other than the coronavirus image itself, it's quite, and I suppose the images have clinical staff in PPE and masks and face masks and everything. It's quite a nebulous idea. Whereas I think most people respond well to humor at times like this. And you can see the same with other similar times in human history. I mean, not similar, but other times of crisis. So, the world wars are an obvious example, or the recession, where there are some great political cartoons, and actually some of the finest political cartoons of the 20th century were from World War II, with cartoonists like David Lowe and other greats. So I think there's always a demand for some humor at times like these. And also there's also, there's been several failings in many governments' responses to the pandemic, and cartoons offer a way to express that as well. Particularly you can see in the UK, I suppose, with some of their cartoonist reactions to, the Dominic Cummings episode. So I think they serve a purpose.
Thank you very much for the explanation, Dr. Kelleher. I reckon that having a look to your cartoons, it is very clear that sense of humor works as a way of expressing and talking about different topics. Do you know any other innovative approach used to talk about global surgery or global health?
I saw something actually this morning, which I don't know enough about, but I thought it was an interesting analogy. So this, obviously the idea that we should all be wearing face masks, and I have my reusable face mask here whenever I go out. And you can see there's a difference in culture in wearing face masks. So many countries that were previously hit by, I suppose, the SARS-1 pandemic and then MERS in the case of South Korea, have a very widespread adaptation of face masks in their populations, whereas particularly English-speaking countries, so Ireland and the UK and the States, have a very low uptake of face mask use. And I mean, a lot of the response that I see on social media is generally kind of shaming people into wearing them, which I always thought wasn't really going to work. And it's also, I wear face masks. I agree that they are a sensible intervention, but even I see the shaming on Twitter, and I see, God, it makes you want to. It's not very effective, and it's a bit irritating. And I saw someone draw the analogy with condom use after the HIV epidemic in the 1980s and in the 1990s, and how efforts to promote use of condoms didn't. Initially they did focus on shaming, but that didn't work at all. And it's actually more sensible policies like making sure they're widely available. That you lead by example, so that public figures, celebrities, sports people, politicians, senior managers, they're all seen to be wearing face masks in public. And that is, you promote a more positive message, so that just becomes the default. And that also you do have to acknowledge that wearing a face mask, just like wearing a condom, can be difficult sometimes, and people forget.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much, Antonio.
All the best, and take care.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Antonio. It was very enjoyable. Great to chat to you.
And for the rest of you, once again, thank you very much for having watched this interview. Remember that you can find previous ones in our YouTube channel, and you can keep updated with our latest news and activities following us in our social media. Take care and keep yourself safe.